What is up, y'all? Welcome back to GridironTalkZone. It's NFL Draft Day. So, in this podcast, just me, Nick Gill. Today, I'm going to be going over my controversial draft quarterback rankings. Going to just go briefly through that because really here for the draft talk. But then I'll get into my mock draft along with some just draft rumors that are speculating around today. But anyway, here's my controversial draft quarterback rankings that I believe I posted like a week or two ago on my Instagram. Um, Starting off with the top two, May and Williams. Obviously, the controversial take seems to be having May 1 ahead of Caleb Williams. This is really a 1A, 1B for me. The reason why I lean May as my top quarterback, I think he, along with the prototypical size, I think he has a higher ceiling than Caleb Williams. One, because of his size. Two, because he is a little bit younger. And ultimately, both Caleb and Drake May, they kind of weren't as good in 2023 on the college tape as they were in 2022. That being because Caleb had Jordan Addison, an NFL receiver, in 2022. He also had a little bit better offensive line than the one he had in 2023. But the same goes with Drake May. Drake May's offensive line this past year was absolutely bad. He was under pressure constantly, and he had to make a lot of plays under pressure. And I think his transition to the NFL is going to be a little bit better than people think. I don't think he has to sit a year. He might be drafted by the Patriots at 3. If that's the case, I could see a scenario where Caleb ends up. No, I think Caleb is going to be better early on than Drake. But I think Drake has the higher upside and the higher ceiling. So I'm going to end up having Drake as my number 1 quarterback, Caleb number 2. But yeah, it's really a go either way for me there. But I just like Drake's upside a little bit more. He reminds me a lot of Justin Halbert. I see a lot of Herbert, Matthew Stafford in his game. If he goes to the Vikings, if the Vikings are able to pull off a trade up to number 3 and draft May, I feel really good about this ranking. If he goes to the Patriots, it may be a little rough, but I think he'll be able to overcome the Patriots if they can support him with a good infrastructure. I think he's going to be really good. First comment, Alex C. May an NFL guy in 2022 to Josh Downs. Yep, that is true. But anyway, number 3, McCarthy. McCarthy, he's a tough eval. He is only 21 years old. But the thing I like about him is his traits. He's prototypical, 6'3", 219. Is a little thin, could add a little bit of weight there, but he has a cannon of an arm. He wasn't asked to do a lot at Michigan, but when he was able to distribute the ball accurately. And he was in a hard situation because he wasn't throwing on every down. It was a lot of, okay, we're going to run the ball first and second down, and now we're on 3rd and long, and we're going to ask you to make a play. And he was able to make a play a lot of the time. I mean, he had a 80% adjusted completion percentage. That was really high in the ranks. A little bit concerned with him. I still think he's a little raw with an inconsistency from a ball placement and an accuracy standpoint. And Drake May gets a lot of talk for his footwork. I think there's a little bit more inconsistency there with McCarthy than May. And from time to time, he would make bad decisions like we saw at the very beginning of the Alabama game. I believe it was the first or second play where he rolled out and threw it right to the defender. That play might have been overturned back. But anyway, yeah, McCarthy, he's a little raw. But the reason why I have him at QB3 is because he has all this college experience while having all these NFL traits. And he wasn't even 21. He was 20 years old when they won the Natty. He turned 21 later in January. So he's still a very young player. I think he has more upside than Bo Nix, Penix, and Jaden Daniels. So that's why he's 3. He's pretty set in at 3 for me. It sounds like the Giants could take him at number 6 overall. Of course, the Vikings are always in play to trade up and get him. It would be a shocker if the Patriots took him at 3, but I could see it happening. But anyway, on to number 4 and 5. 4, I'm pretty set on Bo Nix at 4. Whenever I watch Bo Nix tape, it really surprised me how good he was. Of course, he is an older prospect, 24, so that's kind of, the thing that you could hold against him. And he doesn't have the strongest arm. But I will say this: whenever he had to throw the ball downfield, he threw it downfield accurately, and that's what you can ask for. He doesn't have the popping arm. He isn't the biggest size, but he does all the little things well. He had an 85% adjusted completion percentage. I believe he had the single highest completion percentage in the college football ever, FBS, of all time this year. Now, it was a lot of screens, but it's also a lot of him just throwing darts over the middle, throwing it accurately, getting the ball out super quick. Let me see something real quick. I have it written down. Bo Nix's time to throw was 2.44 seconds. That was extremely fast. I'm going to just try to find real quick where that would have ranked in college. Bo Nix, 2.44 seconds to throw. So he would get the ball out quick. That's something I like. Get the ball out quick. He isn't the smallest. He is 6'2". Isn't the biggest, isn't the smallest. But his time to throw, 2.44 out of all the quarterbacks FBS, that was 14th. So that's pretty high up. First in adjusted completion percentage, very good there. The thing is, well, first let me get to this. Turnover-worthy play percentage, 1.0. That was first in all of college football. He protects the ball. 45 touchdowns, only 3 picks this past year. He doesn't have the strongest arm. His average depth of target was only 6.8 compared to like Michael Penix, who's like 10.7, I believe. That's a big drop-off. He wasn't throwing the ball downfield much, but when he was asked to do so, he was accurate with it. He had a 95.5 PFF deep grade. That's very high. 999 deep yards. That was actually 18th in college football. So yeah, Bo Nix, a lot to like. I think he's quick with his release, gets the ball out quick, accurately, very polished, very NFL ready. He stayed in college a long time, developed. So I don't think he's going to be amazing, but I do see a lot of Derek Carr in Bo Nix. I think if he, maybe goes to a situation that is pretty good, I still think Minnesota could take him in the first round. If it's like 23, if they don't trade up for a quarterback and they don't get JJ, I could see Denver taking him at 12. That's really the only 2 teams I see taking him in the first round. There could always be a surprise team or a trade-up team into the first round to take Bo Nix, or he could go on day 2. But, yeah, a lot to like with Bo Nix. But there is some concerns about his upside. That's why I'm not ranking him high. But I do have him at 4, and I'm pretty set on Bo Nix at 4. On to number 5, Michael Penix. Penix and Daniels are so close for me. First, I'll get to Penix, and then I'll explain why I have Jaden Daniels at QB6. Penix. Where's Michael Penix? All right, so Penix. First thing that pops off the screen is an excellent deep ball. Oh, first off, let me get into my grades. Drake May, I have a top 5 grade on. Caleb Williams, a top 10 grade on. JJ McCarthy, a first-round grade on. Bo Nix, around late 1, early 2. Penix is around 2 grade. And then Jaden Daniels, we'll get to him, but I have around 2 to 3 grade, actually. So a complete day 2 grade on Jaden Daniels. But anyway, Penix, excellent deep ball. That's the first thing that stands out. Excellent deep ball. Makes very quick decisions. He can make those NFL tight level window throws. He has a cannon of an arm. Something he does really good is he reads the defense quick and effectively from the pocket, and he has strong velocity on his throws. Now, why do I have him below Bo Nix? A lot of injury history. Some people think it's not a concern. I don't think it's a big concern, but I think it's something to take note of. Like Nix, he is an older prospect. He's turning 24 this weekend, actually, and Bo Nix is already 24. But with Penix, I think he's a little bit more inconsistent with the accuracy than Bo Nix, to where if you don't really have a ton of upside like Bo Nix and Penix, in my opinion, I want to at least see you be a consistent, accurate pocket passer. Penix was accurate, but Bo Nix was more consistent with that accuracy, and his adjusted completion percentage shows that he was more consistent than Penix because he had a whole 11% more adjusted completion percentage, 85.5 to 74.5. Now, Penix, I know he runs a 4.4, but he doesn't really use his legs. Could that be due to the injury history? Maybe. But Penix, he doesn't do a lot of improvising. And I think as good as he is from the pocket, I think Nix is the better player from the pocket than Penix. So yeah, it's a very tough eval, but I have a round 2 grade on Penix. I think he is going to go round 1. A lot to like with his size and his arm, but I think Bo Nix does the little things better as far as being more accurate consistently and having good pocket awareness and moving in the pocket better than Penix does. Penix, athletic guy with his speed, but it doesn't really translate to the football field. At least it didn't in his last year at Washington. But he could always change that in the NFL, so we'll see. Okay, my controversial take, my most controversial draft take is Jayden Daniels at number 6. All right, Jayden Daniels. So why do I have a round 2-3 grade on him, and why do I have him at number 6? Okay, first off, I think he's a very much a college style quarterback. What do I mean by that? Well, you give him the good offensive line of LSU, the 2 good receivers on the outside, Neighbors and Thomas, and you see a lot of on his tape is throwing from a clean pocket, throwing the deep ball down the sideline to Neighbors and Thomas. Yes, that works in college, and his rushing ability, it worked in college, and I think his rushing will translate to the NFL, so that's why I like his floor, but as a runner at least. But as a passer, it's tough because on his tape, with his athleticism and his speed, you expect to see him improvising and making plays under pressure. He doesn't really do that. He's either throwing from a clean pocket, his first read's not there and he's running, or he's taking a sack. And it's a lot of Justin Fields to me, where he'll see a guy open over the middle, but he won't throw it, or he'll throw it into double coverage, or he'll just run. So that the read part of the game, and him being an older prospect, he's already 23 years old. He played this last college season at 22. You expect him to be a little bit more advanced in as far as reading the defense and stuff like that. But that isn't even his biggest concern. His biggest concern for me is the lack of passing improvisational skills. So, like I said, he'll run a lot, but the elite NFL quarterbacks, the reason why I don't like the Lamar comparison, when Lamar's under pressure, he's going to scramble and try to make a throw. Jayden, it's really, he'll put his head down and just run. And, I'd like to see him do more improvising. And if he goes to Washington, he's going from a top-tier SEC O-line with LSU to arguably the worst O-line in the NFL in Washington. And like I said, good from a clean pocket, but under pressure, he had an extremely high pressure to sack rate. That means if he gets pressured, how many percent of the times does he get sacked? That was very high for Jayden Daniels. So I think in Washington, he's going to end up taking a lot of sacks. I don't think he's going to be able to do enough to improvise and make plays when there's nothing there. Like I see May, Williams, and even to some extent J.J. McCarthy doing. So that's why I don't have Daniels super high. But the deep ball is something to love, at least down the sideline. I think that could be good if he's throwing to Terry McLaurin. But the other stuff, I'm not a fan of. My comp for Jayden Daniels is actually Daniel Jones, which it may sound like an interesting comp, but here's my point of view. Daniel Jones, when we watch him in the NFL, we know he's a very good runner. If he has time from the pocket, he can be a consistent pocket passer. It's just he's barely had that in New York. But if you really watch Daniel Jones, those games where he's doing some good stuff from the pocket, but the reason why Daniel Jones isn't a franchise quarterback is because when he has a bad situation, bad O-line, he doesn't do enough under pressure, improvising, throwing the ball out of structure to make good play or to win games. And I think that's kind of where Jayden Daniels falls for me. Clean pocket, he could be very good. My floor for him is kind of a Tyrod Taylor type player who has actually had a solid NFL career, but clean pocket, he can make all the throws, and he can run very well. But out of structural improvising, he could always develop that, but he is 23, he's an older prospect. I don't really see that happening. So I'm low on Jayden Daniels than most, around 2 to 3 grade for me on Jayden Daniels. And I think he's going to go second overall, but we'll save that for the mock draft that I'm about to do. All right, so now I'm going to do my mock draft live right here. I already posted it on my Instagram, but I'm going to do the mock live to kind of explain my thinking behind all this, and I'm going to go through kind of different scenarios of what I think teams could do. So here is the mock draft simulator. Using the PFF mock draft simulator for this mock. Starting with the number 1 pick, I think this one's pretty set in stone. Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears, only quarterback that they met with for the top 30 visits. It's going to be Caleb Williams. Number 2, all signs point to it being Jaden Daniels. As you can see with my rankings, I would personally take May instead of Daniels at 2, but I think it's going to be Jaden Daniels at 2. Now this is where it gets really interesting. The Patriots at number 3. So the Patriots, it sounds like they really want to keep the pick and take the franchise quarterback. But I also think the Giants at 6 and the Vikings at 11 really love Drake May and are both going to offer pretty much a haul to get Drake May. At least the Vikings. The question is, Patriots reporter Mike Reese is reporting that even he believes from sources that he's talked to within the Patriots organization, even if the Vikings would offer pick 11, pick 23, and next year's first, that would not be enough to move the Patriots off of 3. So that means the Patriots must really like a quarterback. That quarterback could be not Jaden Daniels. Well, it could be, but he's probably off the board. The Patriots could love Drake May, or maybe they love JJ McCarthy. I'm gonna predict that they draft Drake May. I think the upside's clear. He's a big prototypical quarterback. He has kind of the traits what the Patriots look for in a quarterback: toughness. Seems like a loyal guy off the field to his team. He chose to go to UNC because of family ties instead of Alabama. So I think the Patriots are really going to like Drake May, and I think Drake May will be the pick at number 3, whether it's the Patriots or it's the Giants or Vikings trading up. Number 4, okay, this one, the Cardinals, they are kind of fielding calls, but I mean, this is an organization who traded last year. They ended up trading back up to get the tackle, but that they have picks for the future. Let's look right here. You're picking 4, 27, 35, 66, 71, 90. You have 6 picks in the top 90 and 7 in the top 104. This team has picks. I think they're going to use one of those picks on a franchise receiver that could remind them a lot of the best player in their franchise history, Larry Fitzgerald. I think Marvin Harrison, very good prospect, can't miss receiver, one of the best receiving prospects we've ever seen. You have to take him here at number 4. Number 5, this is interesting. So, first glance, a lot of fans will think, okay, they want to take a pass catcher, whether that be Bowers at tight end, Malik Neighbors at receiver, or even Rome Odunze at receiver. But it really sounds like the Chargers are either going to 1, trade back, 2, stay put and take their tackle of choice. So you're looking at trade back options. The Vikings, like I said, I think the Vikings will offer a haul to the Patriots to get Drake May. If the Patriots somehow take JJ McCarthy, I think Vikings trade to 4 or 5 and get Drake May. However, this is a gut feeling. This isn't it has been reported a little bit that the Vikings would trade up for May, maybe not McCarthy. Or they trade up for McCarthy but wouldn't give up a haul to get him. But it isn't factual. I think the Vikings won't offer enough for the Chargers to move off pick 5, even though the Chargers do want to trade down. So I'm kind of going bold here. Right now, the reporting from, Daniel Jeremiah, Peter Schrager, some trusted NFL mock draft people, they're reporting that the Chargers are going to take J.C. Latham. Or that's what they're predicting. Not really reporting, predicting in the mocks. Right tackle, Latham, has experience at left tackle. In high school, Latham played left tackle. But I could see them going J.C. Latham, but I just really feel like Joe Alt. If you're looking for a run blocker, yes, Latham's a really good one, but you get a better run blocker than Joe Alt, who is also an elite pass protector. I mean, look at Joe Alt. He played almost 700 snaps and allowed 1 sack. He played almost 900 snaps the year before, allowed 0 sacks, and he's 21 years old. He's super young. He's 6'8", 322 pounds. He has quick footwork for a player his size. I feel like Joe Alt is going to be the pick here. It's kind of bold, but I'm going to say that they take Joe Alt and they figure out if he's going to play right tackle, if Slato moves to right tackle. I think they want the 2 elite tackles. Could be Latham, could be trade down and take Latham. Could always take a playmaker, but I think it's going to be Joe Alt. All right, here is the next pick. The Giants, personally, I think with the board right now, pick should be Malik Neighbors, and don't even look back. Daniel Jones, you're still paying him at least this year, and you need weapons. Neighbors seems like the right pick. However, the Giants have done the work on all the quarterbacks. In my opinion, if McCarthy's there at 6 and the Vikings don't get up to 5 to take McCarthy, I think McCarthy is going to be a New York Giant. They've done the homework on him. McCarthy himself, not that this really matters, but he thinks the Giants are going to take him based off how much work they've done on him, and he's met with them twice. And I think the Giants are going to make, in my opinion, a mistake of taking JJ McCarthy, because Daniel Jones, you need to get him weapons, and I'd give him one more year before you move off him. But his health is a concern. You may like McCarthy more as a prospect than Daniel Jones, so I can understand taking McCarthy, but personally, I would work on getting a receiver. But I think McCarthy is going to be the pick at number 6. On to number 7. Now, this is an interesting thing I have in my mock happening. I think if Joe Alt is off the board, I personally think the Titans, they're going to explore a trade back option. I think they still like some of these tackles, but I think a team that wants to trade up is the New York Jets. I really do think the Jets want to trade up and draft a playmaker. Could always trade up and draft Joe Alt if he's still there, but I think the Titans would take Alt in this scenario if he was there at 7. I'm going to say the Titans trade up. Here's my first trade. Or not Titans trade up. Jets trade up to 7. Titans trade back to 10. I'm going to do 10, a third round next year, and pick 134 this year for 7. That sounds like solid value. Number 7, I think the Jets trade up and take Malik Neighbors. This is a bold prediction for me in this draft, but the draft is unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen in the draft. We think we might know what's going to happen, but ultimately, we're lucky if we get 5 picks right in this entire mock. I'm going to go bold, say the Jets trade up for Malik Neighbors. I've been thinking this the last few days, and it's actually been reported today that they're looking at trading up to get a playmaker. On to number 8, the Falcons. This is a trade down candidate. But I personally think they're just going to stay put at 8 and take the best defensive player on the board. And I think it's between 3 guys. I think it's between, if they go corner, I think it's Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. If they go pass rusher, I think they're between Dallas Turner, that's been the consensus pick, and Latu out of UCLA. Bold pick would be Byron Murphy, but I think they're set on the interior. They really want to get an edge rusher or a corner. And I'm going to predict that the Falcons take Latu. I think he's the best pass rusher in this draft. I think his production is what translates to the NFL. I know he had the medical concerns, but I think he's fine now. He's been playing at UCLA the last year, played well, and I think he's a very good prospect. I think Latu will be the pick for the Falcons. Could also see a trade back scenario. Number 9, my Chicago Bears pick for the second time in the top 10, but we don't have many picks the rest of the draft. If you're looking at it, we only have 2 picks after picks 1 and 9. 2 picks in the entire draft after picks 1 and 9. So the Bears are an interesting scenario. They could trade down. If they were to trade down, I'd be looking at about 3 to 4 teams. The Broncos, if they want to trade up. The Colts, if they want to trade up. A dark horse pick would be the Saints to trade up. And then another pick would be the Rams to trade up. It's actually been reported the Rams might want to trade into the top 10. I don't think it'll happen, but it wouldn't shock me if it did happen. But I also don't think the Bears would want to trade down 10 spots, because I think that they really want to get a franchise player here at number 9 or in the top 15 if they trade down a few spots. I'm going to say that the Bears, Rome Odunze has been kind of the consensus pick here. Brock Bowers has been a little bit of talk to be taken at this spot. There's been some talk about a tackle, like, I believe Daniel Jeremiah predicted Olu Fashanu, the Penn State tackle, being the pick here, to get that franchise tackle at left tackle. And he actually played high school ball with Caleb Williams. But I'm going to go with what I think the Bears should do and with what I actually think is going to happen. And that's Byron Murphy, Alabama defensive player, beast of an interior pass rusher. They really need another defensive lineman to go along with Montez Sweat. I think Murphy should be the pick here. On to number 10, I had the Titans trading back 3 spots. I think the Titans' number 2 tackle on the board is going to be Olu Fashanu. I think he's a high ceiling type player. He's young. He's only 21, and he has quick feed. He has pretty solid size. I think he's going to be a pretty good tackle in this league if he can develop correctly. And I think that the Titans really need a left tackle, so they're going to be looking at Fashanu here at pick 10. On to my number 11 pick, the Vikings. So I did not have them trading up, and J.J. McCarthy is off the board now. I think if they stay put, I think the guy's going to be Byron Murphy, but I have the Bears taking him. That's why I didn't have the Bears trading back, because I think if the Bears trade back, they might miss out on Byron Murphy, because I think the Vikings would really like him at 11 if the Vikings don't trade up for a quarterback. But with Murphy off the board, I think the Vikings immediately look at the top-rated corner, and I think that'll be Quinyon Mitchell. I think he'll be the first cornerback off the board tonight. On to number 12. This is one where I think Sean Payton, may try to trade up, may try to trade down, but ultimately, if he's at pick 12 and Brock Bowers is on the board, I do not see him passing on Brock Bowers. This may seem bold to say that he wouldn't pass on him, but it also kind of would be bold to say that he would pass on Brock Bowers, because Sean Payton wants to go get a playmaker, in my opinion, or a quarterback, and I think he settles for a playmaker here at number 12, Brock Bowers. On to the Raiders pick. So the Raiders GM said they would be willing to trade down, but it depends how far down. It depends. They have a range that they don't want to go past. And with Rome Odunze somehow still on the board at number 13, I think the Colts, who are usually kind of, not an aggressive team to trade up, I think this is where, the Bills may be making calls to trade up, but that's kind of out of the Raiders trade down range, in my opinion. The Colts, I think, are going to trade up 2 spots. I think the Colts will give up, pick 15 and pick 117 for pick 13. We're going to force this trade. And I think the Colts will draft Rome Odunze. Could always trade up for Bowers, maybe with the Bears at 9. They could stay put and take a DB, a pass rusher. I think the Colts, though, are going to end up trading up a few picks and get Rome Odunze. If Rome Odunze falls, I think the Colts will get him. On to number 14, New Orleans. If Odunze somehow falls to 14, I think they'll take him. It wouldn't shock me if they traded up for Odunze with the Bears or something, but I'm going to ultimately say they stay put at 14 and they take a tackle. And I think at this point, even though they need a left tackle, I think they're going to go for the upside of J.C. Latham. He probably won't fall this far, but if he does fall this far, I think the Saints would be happy to get him. He played right tackle. He could maybe play guard, and he did play left tackle in high school, and he did say that he wants to show teams that he can play left tackle. So I think the Saints will take him. He could be the backup to Ryan Ramczyk to start. They could plug him at guard if they want to still keep Trevor Penning at left tackle, or they could try out J.C. Latham at left tackle. He's a young prospect, only 21 years old, has a bunch of upside. I think the upside tackles in this class are Fashanu and Latham and Amarius Mims as well, because I think Joe Alt's kind of already a proven commodity, even though he can be a really good player. But I think the Saints will love Olu Fashanu if he's there, but I think the Titans will love him more than the Saints. So this all stems back to what the Chargers do. If the Chargers take Latham, or they trade back and take Latham, then the Titans are taking Joe Alt. And then Fashanu could potentially be there for New Orleans. but I'm kind of going outside of the box here to what's consensus to happen, and I'm going to have Latham falling to 14, and I have the Saints drafting him. Number 15. So I mentioned the Raiders having a range that they'd be willing to trade back to. And I think that range is honestly no farther than 19 the Rams, and preferably not even farther than 16 with the Seahawks. Because I think they've done the homework on this guy. I think that the Raiders want Michael Penix. I think the first option is Jaden Daniels. I think they can't trade up for him because of the value that they'd have to give up. And the Commanders want to pick Daniels, it seems like. I ultimately think that Michael Penix Jr. will be called for the Raiders tonight. On to number 16 pick, the Seattle Seahawks. This is an interesting one. I've heard a lot of smoke for Cooper DeJean. I've seen him mocked to Seattle. I personally could see it because of the athlete he is, and maybe McDonald would love that and want to work with him. But I'm going to ultimately say, though, between Penix, if he's there, O-line, or Latu if he falls to them. I'm going to ultimately say in this scenario, they're going to take a right tackle who could play guard as well. Maybe the Washington connection, they go for Fatanu, but I think they're going to go to Talise Fuaga, right tackle, Oregon State. They need right tackle more than left tackle, and they also need interior help. He could fill either hole for them. So I think it would be a really good pick to get Fuaga at number 16. I could also see Seattle as a sneaky trade back candidate. If looking at the board, there's still DeJean on the board, and there's still, Taylor Arnold. Maybe a team like the Lions or the Eagles could trade up and get the franchise cornerback. But I'm going to say that the Seahawks stay put and get the tackle of choice, and I'll say that'll be Fuaga. On to number 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is one of the toughest picks to predict. I could see them going anywhere. O-line, secondary, maybe even pass rusher sneaky pick. But I think they're probably going to draft for just the best player on the board in the secondary. And I honestly think they're going to like DeJean more than Arnold because of the versatility of DeJean. The defensive coordinator, the new hire, Ryan Nielsen, he kind of seems to like those versatile players who can plug at any position. And I think that DeJean provides him that in the secondary. So I think DeJean will be the pick for the Jags. On to number 18, the Bengals. This is an interesting team. I could see them trading up a few spots if Latham falls to 14 like he does in my scenario. I could also see them staying put and drafting the best pass rusher available or the best O-lineman available. Guys to look out for, maybe even a cornerback, Arnold, if they really like him. But I think Newton's a guy to look out for. Any of the offensive linemen, really. I think they really would like to draft Latu, but I think that the Falcons will take him at 8. But if Latu's here at 18, I think that's the pick for the Bengals. But in this scenario, I'm going to have Dallas Turner fall into the Bengals. I think they'll take best player available. I think for them, that'll be Turner. And that's my pick for 18, Turner to go to the Bengals. Let's grab a sip of water, and then we'll get to 19. The Rams, a lot of options here. The Rams, obviously, they lost Aaron Donald. They'd probably love to go best defensive player available. Those trade-up candidates maybe try to get Bowers or Dunze. They'll also probably a trade-back candidate, so I could see them going in a lot of directions here. They've had talk for Bo Nix. I'm not buying that pick, though. So ultimately, I'm going to say that the Rams stay put. And, the championship window's now. I think Fatanu, they like the left tackles, but they could always use an upgrade. Fatanu is 23.5, so he's going on 24 as a rookie. I think he's experienced, and I think that'll be a pick that, maybe they'll like to get an experienced tackle who can help protect Matthew Stafford in his last few years as a quarterback in the NFL. So I'm going to say Fatanu will be the pick for the Rams at 19. All right, on to the Steelers. The Steelers, I could see them taking a receiver if they love Brian Thomas, but I think that they'll more look at receiver in second or third rounds, depending on when they pick again. 51, 84. I think they could look at a receiver on one of those picks. I think they're a team that'll draft for either the best defensive player available if they love Newton or one of the corners like Arnold. Or I could honestly see O-line. Maybe they like an upside guy like Mims. Maybe they like Graham Barton, who they could play in the interior. Maybe they even like Tyler Guyton. I'm going to say, though, there's a team right now who really wants a cornerback, and they're going to trade up. I'm going to predict a bold prediction. The Lions trade up. I'd say they give up 29, 73, and a third next year. That value may be a little off, but we'll say that's the value for now. I'm going to say the Lions trade up and end up drafting a cornerback. With Taylor Arnold on the board, I could see the Eagles trading up for him. I could even see the Steelers taking him if he's there at 20. But I'm going to say the Lions, they have Carlton Davis, but they don't really have a cornerback too. And Carlton Davis isn't the long-term solution at cornerback. They probably want a young guy who can be the long-term cornerback. And I think Taylor Arnold, his playmaking ability, his speed, I think it's someone that they would really like to draft. And I'm going to say that they trade up for Taylor Arnold. Bold take there. Number 21, Dolphins. They've had smoke for a quarterback. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback. That smoke's kind of died down anyway. Best O-lineman available is always an option, but I'm going to say they go ahead and take Newton, interior defensive lineman, very good pass rusher out of the University of Illinois. I think that they're going to want a Christian Wilkins replacement, and Newton is a very good Christian Wilkins replacement. On to 22, Philadelphia. This is a team that will probably end up trading up, but I kind of didn't find the right fit to trade up here in this mock prediction. So I'm gonna say that they take the best player available on the board, and I think that could be Amarius Mims, sneaky receiver option. But I'm honestly gonna say they take a defender. Jared Verse could be the pick. I'm going to go sneaky pick. I think that they're going to take Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think he had a very good year at Alabama, and I think that they're going to be looking at getting a young cornerback in the room. I could see Nate Wiggins being the pick here, but I'm going to say that they pick Kool-Aid out of Alabama to be the next cornerback. 23, this is where I think the Vikings get the quarterback. I think that they fail to trade up. Due to the high demand being asked to trade up for JJ, and I think that they really like May, and the Patriots won't give him up. And I could see them taking Penix at 11, but I'm gonna ultimately say that they get the best defensive player on the board at 11, and at number 23, Bo Nix is right there, and they're going to take him. Obviously, the Vikings want to trade up, but it's been reported they do like Nix. If they had to settle for Nix, they'd be fine with that. He'd go into a good situation, and I think he could be good right now, so I think this would be a pretty good pick here at 23. The Cowboys are an interesting team. They're usually a team who would draft best player available no matter the position, no matter the need. Seems like that could be Jalen Verse maybe in this scenario. I think they would really like Amarius Mims too. But I'm going to go kind of a bold direction here for this Cowboys pick. I'm going to say that because you lost Tyron Smith, if you're the Cowboys, you really need to fill the need at left tackle. I think that they can get a true left tackle and a player like Jordan Morgan. Fairly good player at Arizona State the last few years. He has college experience. He is 22.7 years old, so going on 23 as a rookie. But I feel like the window's now. They want to get an experienced young tackle on a cheap contract who can be the left tackle. They don't have to worry about where he's going to play. I think Jordan Morgan will be the pick for left tackle. He could always move to guard, as it says right here, but I think he's good enough to be the left tackle, and I think that that's who they're going to take. Kind of outside the box, but who knows? That's my bold pick for them. On to the Packers. I'm pretty set on the Packers taking either Graham Barton or Peyton Wilson. I'm going to say that they like their young tackles right now with Zach Tom on the right and the left tackle. I'm going to say that they end up going with Peyton Wilson. The defensive coordinator they just hired was from Boston College, who played NC State 2 years ago. Peyton Wilson was there. Peyton Wilson actually had a pick and I believe a sack or something in that game versus Boston College. I think that they're going to like Peyton Wilson a lot. Going to want to get that linebacker for the future. They lost Devondre Campbell. They do have Quay Walker, but Peyton Wilson, an older prospect. I could see Edgerrin Cooper being the better player, but he could also be the pick. But I'm going to say that they end up taking Peyton Wilson here at 25. Number 26, the Bucs. I could see a pass rusher, especially with Jared Verse on the board, but I really think that they need a corner. They traded Carlton Davis. Zion McCollum is the number 2 corner right now. They still have Jamel Dean. I think they're going to really want Nate Wiggins if he's still here. I'm going to say Nate Wiggins is the pick for the Bucs. On to 27. The Bucs are also, by the way, they're a trade-up team. I could see them trading up to get one of the top 3 corners, or even a top edge rusher. I could see them trading up to get that defensive player for their team for the future, but I'm going to say they stay put and get Nate Wiggins. 27, Cardinals. I think, honestly, if Wiggins is there, they take him, but with him off the board, I think Jared Verse is the pick. They need help on the defense, and Gannon, defensive guy, I think he'll like Jared Verse and want to work with him. On to 28, this is where things get interesting. The Bills could trade up, honestly. They could stay put. I have the Bills staying put. I could see them taking a tackle. I think a sneaky pick would be Jordan Morgan, but I have him going to the Cowboys. Linebacker, maybe Peyton Wilson, but I'm ultimately going to say that they take kind of the obvious pick, and that's a receiver, Brian Thomas Jr., with him on the board. DB could always be in question, but I'm going to say Brian Thomas is the pick there for the Bills. Steelers, this is a tough one. Really think the pick could be Emilius Mims if they trade back and he's still there, but I'm gonna say that they do address receiver in the first round instead of the second. Adonai Mitchell, I think they'll really like him. They did bring him in for a visit. Not that means a whole lot, but I'm gonna say that they draft Adonai Mitchell, 29. 30, I think the Ravens static to get Emilius Mims, high upside prospect. They need a right tackle. He doesn't have a lot of experience, as you see, as he's been kind of hurt, but I think he's the ultimate upside player in this draft. Height, weight, age. I think that they'll like him a lot. Can move him to guard early on, or could plug him in at right tackle because they need a right tackle and they also need a guard. Graham Barton could be the pick here. Even Jackson Powers-Johnson, or a receiver, but I'm not really buying the receiver in the first round. I think that they want to get an O-lineman, so I'm going to go Emilius Mims. On to the Niners. This is an interesting pick for me. I could see O-line, really could see it. I could also see them solidifying a deep free safety, and I think that's what they're going to do. I haven't seen this mocked really, but my bold pick, I'm going to say that the Niners go with Tyler Nubin. He can play true free safety, and they have Hufanga for the box, but the free safety position has kind of been, not as good this past year without Jimmy Ward. So I think that they're going to get the safety, Tyler Nubin. Could always maybe try to trade up in the second round and get him, or whenever they pick again. But I'm going to say that they take him right here at number 31. On to the last pick of the first round. All right, this one I'm going to go kind of outside the box. It has been reported recently that this could be the pick. I think the Chiefs, Xavier Worthy has been reported to be the pick, or mocked to be the pick, not really reported, but I don't think that that's going to be the pick. I think that they're going to wait on receiver for round 2 or round 3. Graham Barton could be the pick, but I think he'd have to play more guard for them, and I think they want a true left tackle. So looking at the true left tackles, who are the options, really? Guyton played some right tackle, so he's not really a true left tackle. I think that they like Kingsley Suamataia. He's kind of an upside player, but he played right and left tackle. He's from Andy Reid's alma mater, BYU. He's only 21. I think he's a really solid player. Maybe they want a more, ready-to-play tackle, like a Jordan Morgan, potentially, if he's still there. But I'm going to say that they go with the pick that's kind of been reported recently by the Chiefs insiders, and I think that'll be Suamataia for the Chiefs at 32. I think that'll be the pick. So that is my mock draft. Let's let it pull up. I'm going to open it in another tab, change the share screen. All right, so here is my final mock draft. Of course, it is so hard to predict the NFL draft. It starts in a little over 4 hours from now. But this is what I have right now for my mock. I'll be God if I get about 7-8 picks right, and even that's on the high end. I'm more likely to probably get 3 to 5 right based on like how likely you are to predict these picks and recent predictions. But anyway, this is my mock draft. So I have 6 quarterbacks going in the first round. I have 5 receivers. Tackle is the interesting one. Let's see how many tackles I have in the first round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tackles. I have 8 tackles going in the first round. I'm going to see if that's a record. Record for first round NFL tackles in a draft. I can't really find the record for tackles drafted in a single first round of a draft, but I'm going to say 8 might be the record for tackles taken, offensive tackles in a first round. And I believe the record for offensive players taken in a first round is around 19, and I believe I have around 20. So I have a lot of offensive players in the first round, but it should be an exciting draft. But that is my final mock draft. Thank you guys for watching. Excited to see how these picks play out. And yeah, should be a good draft.